section 1.3, we're going to be doing subtracting integers. And quite frankly, it's pretty easy if you can just remember a couple of things. First off, when we are subtracting integers, we're actually going to be doing what's called adding the additive inverse. In other words, let's just explain what the additive inverse is. It's a number's opposite. So here's some basic rules that I want you to understand when subtracting. Rule number 1, keep the first number. 2, change subtraction to addition. 3, change the second number to its additive inverse and then add as normal. So you're probably scratching that as like, wait a minute, how am I subtracting when at the very end I'm adding? Well, it's just kind of one of those things. So let's just go ahead and do one together. So let's say I am doing the problem -5. Oops, lead's getting a little bit low. Oh, hang on. There we go. Let's try now. Let's do -5 minus, wow, that's a bad pen, 3. So -5 minus 3. Well, my first step says I keep the first number, so I'm going to keep that number. And then it says change subtraction to addition. So I'm going to say -5, and instead of saying minus, I'm now going to say plus. Okay? And then it tells me in step 3, change the second number to its additive inverse. And we defined that a while ago as its opposite. So the opposite of 3 is -3. So now I have -5 plus a -3. Well, we could do that pretty easy with our chips. I can go -5, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5 right here, okay? So I'll do that pretty easy. And then I'm gonna add 3 more negatives. And 1, 2, 3. So what that gives me is -8. So what's my answer? Well, -5 minus 3 is equal to -8. And what I did was I kept my first number, I changed it to addition, and I changed my last number, which in this case was 3, to its additive inverse or its opposite, which is -3. Let's do another one. Let's say -3 minus -4. Okay? So my first step, I'm going to keep my first number, I'm going to change it to addition, and I'm going to change the second number into its additive inverse. In this case, it will be 4. So let's do that. -3, right here. And I'm going to add +4. Okay? So just like we have done in the previous video, we make our 0 pairs, whoop, goes away, whoop, goes away, whoop, goes away, and what's left? +1. So -3 minus a -4 is equal to +1. All right, so let's just go ahead and switch on to the back. We have 3 minus 8. Well, we would change it. We'll go with 3. This becomes a plus, and I add my additive inverse. In this case, it will be -8. And I can use my chips again. All right, I'm going to let you figure that out. Give you just a moment. At this point in time, you should have gotten -5. All right, so that's all subtraction is. It's the same thing you learned in 1.2. It's adding. You just rearrange it just a little bit and you add. So do the same things for 2, 3, and 4. What you should have got was 13, -19, and -1. If you got those wrong, ask a neighbor, ask me for help. You know what to do. All right, so look at number 5. This time, instead of having 2, I've got 3 different pieces to it. So, but nothing really changes. Every time I see subtraction, I change it to addition, and then I change whatever's being subtracted into its additive inverse. So for this one, this would be changed to 11 plus, and this -2, it becomes an additive inverse, which is +2, plus 14. And then you simply add that up, okay? In this case, we would get 27. Because 11 plus 2 is 13, plus 14 equals 27. Now, why don't you try these on your own over here? What you should have done is rewrote these things. So you would have gotten negative 16, and instead of having a minus a negative 12, you would have changed it to its additive inverse, which would be plus 12. All right? And then this right here is already okay. It's already plus a negative 8. So now we just simply follow our adding rules like we learned last time, and we would get negative 12. For 7, you would have for 7, you would have 6 plus its additive inverse of negative 17 plus the additive inverse of negative 4. And then you would follow your adding policies, just some rules like we did last time in the last video, and you would get negative 15. So really nothing is changing about subtraction. It's just that we are, instead of actually doing a minus symbol now, we're doing an addition and an additive inverse. So as long as you can remember the rules for addition that you may have come up with, subtraction is no problem. All right, so why don't you look at 8 through 11. Now remember, what you're doing is you're taking this variable and you're replacing it with the number. So in this case, it says x is equal to negative 4. We'll put negative 4 in the place of x. All right, so why don't you work on these? So for number 8, it says 6 minus x, and we know x is negative 4, and we plug it in its place. So now we have 6 minus a negative 4. But because this is subtraction, we're going to change this symbol to addition, and we're going to change this to its additive inverse. So that becomes 6 plus 4. Well, 6 plus 4, well, that equals 10. Number 9, we know y happens to be negative 8, so we take the negative 8 and we plug it in the place of y. And we get negative 8 minus negative 10. Well, we follow our rules. We change subtraction into addition. We change the negative 10 to its additive inverse, and we get negative 8 plus 10. We follow what rules we know for adding integers, and we get 2. 10, we have negative 17 plus z minus x. Well, z is 3, so we plug that in. And we know that x is negative 4, so we plug that in. And what we get is negative 17 plus 3 minus a negative 4. And since I have subtraction here, I'm going to change this to addition and change this into its additive inverse, which gives us negative 17 plus 3 plus 4. Now that we've simplified this, it's just a matter of following our adding rules again. And ultimately, we get negative 10. 11 is the absolute value, don't forget, that's what these bars mean, absolute value of y minus x. Well, y is negative 8, and x is negative 4. So I get the absolute value of negative 8 minus a negative 4. And since this is a subtraction, we again follow the rules, change it to addition and the additive inverse. And that gives us the absolute value of negative 8 plus 4. We follow our adding rules and we get the absolute value of negative 4. And since we know what the absolute value of negative 4 is, we know it to be positive 4. So number 12, when you first look at this is a little bit hard to think of, so I'm going to actually draw a picture to help you out with this. It says you begin a hike in Death Valley, California. All right, and it says that you are at an elevation of negative 86 meters. So basically, think of it like this. If you have a surface, let's say this is 0 meters, okay? This is what we would call the water level or sea level, okay? But you're not there. You're actually all the way down here at negative 86. And you hike all the way up to 45 meters. Now, along the way, you actually cross this 0 point. So you're going from negative 86 all the way up to a positive 45 as you climb and go hiking. What is the actual distance that you actually physically did? So I'm going to give you that one. That's about the only hint that I'm going to give you with this problem. Now let's take a look at number 13. It says you sell t-shirts for a fundraiser. It costs $112 to have t-shirts made. You made 98 in sales. What is your profit? So if it cost you $112 to make it, but you only made $98, well, how good are you? Okay, this is what you're asking. This is what 13s want to know. How much money did you make, or did you make any at all? Now 14, the table shows the scores of 6 golfers. Find the range of the scores. Now I'm going to pause right here, and we're going to ask you to kind of call back probably into maybe some of last year's stuff about mean, medium, mode, and range. That's what it's asking for. So 12, 13, and 14 are going to be your challenge problems for this video. Now that we've kind of talked about each one of these, I'm going to leave these to you, and I want you to try these on your own. You know the drill. If you get stumped on it and you need some help, we'll talk about it. All you got to do is ask, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.